what brings us together to meet in this way, and um, I host these meetings, every week, and while it's not always the case, um, not infrequently, there's some sense that we're wanting we're wanting something different, something more um, than what's presently occurring. That sense that, yeah, whatever it is, that we're looking for is somehow not fully here or not here at all. And as I was reflecting on that, um, I was just, looking at, we're always seeing something, right? Something's always being perceived. And it was just occurring to me that that's what we're looking for is actually what's being perceived, which is why you don't have to see anything else. You don't have to notice anything else. You don't have to, um, we don't have to find something quote unquote better than what's already showing up. Because this showing up of reality right now, exactly as it seems to be appearing, is the word that was coming to me is this is the shining of reality, always. Exactly in the way that it's appearing, in all the myriad ways it seems to be appearing. The shining that I'm referring to is this um, it is in the nature of reality to shine forth, to to present as something, right? And this is what's being beheld right now, this shining of reality. And I don't necessarily mean light when I say shining. If you were in the deepest, darkest space where absolutely no physical light was present, which is darker than darker than dark. Nothing can be visible. That would be the shining of reality. So that when I say shining, I really mean I'm really referring to the presence of reality, the presence of life, of existence, the mystery. And there's no gradations of this presence, of this shining, right? In other words, on a bright sunny day as it is where I am right now, the sun is shining brightly. That's what the shining of reality looks like. But if the storm clouds come and the skies become very dark, that's what the shining looks like. It's equal in the amount of shining, right? The presence doesn't increase or decrease. I might have used this example recently. I can't recall. I know I was writing about it, but um, wherever you're sitting right now, wherever you are in your environment, if suddenly, 1,000 people showed up in the setting where you're in, your home or outside or wherever you are, the shining hasn't increased, the presence hasn't increased because 1,000 people showed up and they're making a bunch of racket and celebrating or whatever. Um, you could you there was a there was a lot of activity going on last night in Toronto with the World Series game, if you're a baseball fan. It was like a lot of cheering until the end when they lost. Um, but let's just say there was a lot of action happening, like a lot of activity. And that's what The Shining looked like. And then when everybody left the stadium, and it was just absolutely, it was midnight or whatever time, and everyone's gone, it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop. That's what The Shining looks like. So in other words, it's not increased or decreased. This is one of the tricky things about language as I talk about how words words really only make sense in many respects in terms of what's not that word. In other words, what's if you talk about the word presence, for example, as a word as it's typically used more dualistically, it only makes sense in terms of absence, right? Something that isn't present, it's absent. So now we have a word. Oh yeah, it's present, as in it's here versus not here. Or it's shining as opposed to not shining, right? So that's what the words designate something. But in the case of the way I'm using words when we come together to point to the one thing, I'm referring to something that doesn't have an opposite. So there is no non-shining of reality. There's no non-presence of reality, which is why we don't have to do something to crank it up. I'm going to do my whatever kind of inquiry or practice or gathering together like this to crank up the presence, to crank up the shining. So, oh yeah, there it is. It's shining brightly. No, it's shining brightly always. That's its nature. You see? And just to remind you, you're not somehow this creature existing apart from the shining that's noticing the shining and being amazed by the shining and reveling in the shining. Like you are the shining. There's just the shining. So everything that appears, the body is the shining. It's not separate from the shining. It's just part of the shining of reality, an aspect of the shining. Your personality, another aspect of the shining. And from that perspective, there's just shining. There's not. We can talk about the different ways the shining can appear as its expressions or its aspects, and that's fine. And the shining configures itself in all sorts of ways, we could say, right? The light of reality shapes itself seemingly in an infinity of different diverse ways, but it's always the one thing. It's always this brilliance. It was impossible to miss it, actually. Impossible to be apart from it, impossible to lose it. A moment where, oh my God, where did that, I was feeling that shining and now it seems like it's vanished. That's the shining right there. Has no off switch, apparently. And it's shining, reality shining is it's inexplicable, truly, isn't it? It's the miracle, the mystery, the shining. And it's here just spontaneously. It's here without us making effort to make something happen. It's just here. It's the gift of reality appearing inexplicably out of nothing. The shining comes out of the shining. It doesn't have a cause because, of course, any supposed cause of the shining would just be more of the shining. Just notice that everything that's being perceived right now in all its diversity is simply reality's shine, reality's presence. I love the word shine just because it kind of highlights the uh, shining. It's like it's here, you know. It's not a um, it's dynamic in its shining, isn't it? I mean, we can use language and concepts to, in a sense, seemingly capture or describe the myriad ways the shining can appear and how one of its versions is distinct from another of its versions, right? How the tree is not the ocean, is not the sky, is not the human. In the same way, you can look at the movie screen and go, that image is different from that image, is that different from that image? But it's all the imaging of the projector's light. And this is all the, you could say, imaging of reality's creative force. It's just the shine. And and so everything being perceived, I mean, this is powerful in so many ways to see this, but in everything that's being looked at, noticed, experienced, you're encountering the one thing. As I said in my last book title, in every wave, the entirety of the sea, because every wave is made of the sea. So what you're looking at right now is the absolute reality that looks like that in that particular, that's its particular version right there. But what it really is the shining, right? So you're always seeing the same thing in the countless, ceaseless different ways that it can appear. The title of my, speaking of book titles, of my second book was called This Is Always Enough, because this is the shining. It may not be your favorite moment descriptively based on, our idiosyncratic human preferences, but it is the absolute reality shining forth as that. And it is always that. And in that sense, it is more than enough. It's the miracle of life itself. And this is what's always being perceived. The only thing that could ever be perceived.